Watch and burn.
Hey everyone, so tonight I wanted to discuss one of Vangelis' most challenging releases, I suppose. It wasn't so challenging for me because I got into the Venetian snares right about the same time that I discovered Vangelis, actually. No, wait, hang on. Yeah, that's about right. I was a kid back when I discovered both of them. And it would have been right around the same time, give or take. And I was way more into the Venetian snares than I was Vangelis at that point. And so hearing how Venetian snares or Aaron Funk would twist his instruments and sort of like force them to contort and become something altogether new that no one else had really ever heard digital instruments do before, or be able to hear digital instruments be able to do before. It's kind of hard to deny that in a lot of ways I really could argue that this record from Vangelis, Beaubourg, has really influenced people like the Venetian snares so considerably, because the lion's share of this record sounds sort of like a Frankenstein version of a bunch of snippets from a number of tracks from the Venetian snares. Like if you were to take said tracks from the Venetian snares and you were to, like I said, chop them down just to the parts that sound like this, and then you were to Frankenstein them together, in a lot of ways they would sound just like this. Except the thing here is Vangelis released this, I believe, back in 1978. Now, this record could be considered like a noise offering from Vangelis, which I'm not really sure if that title is warranted here, but I could see a lot of Vangelis' fan base sort of struggling to appreciate this. Well, this and Invisible Connections too. Invisible Connections was a rough ride for most people, I imagine, as well. But seeing as how I was really into the Venetian snares, and I was used to him sort of twisting and turning his instruments into some sort of cacophony of like dripping synthetic chaos, this isn't exactly what's going on Beaubourg, but at the same time, this record, I just can't get over how much it sounds like the Venetian snares. And that can't be, of course, there's no way, like this record had to influence Aaron Funk, even though in all the interviews I've read about with Aaron, I've never heard him really talk about this record, but this record sounds so much like, oh my God, it's incredible how much of the Venetian snares material does sound just like this record. And like I said, I imagine that this record is probably a lot for Vangelis' fan base to wrap their heads around, because there's no real sense of direction. It's more like Vangelis is like, oh shit, check it out. I found a whole new range of knobs on my synthesizer, and I'm going to record whatever it is I do with them, for better or for worse, and I'm going to release the record out into the world, and a lot of people aren't going to get it. And I'm sure they didn't. Now, I really like this because it shows that Vangelis was more than just your traditional genius, where like genius can sort of end up locked off and walled off into one particular type of music or one particular style or a certain mindset, and said genius would never allow the individual to sort of step outside those boundaries. But with a record like this, it's clear that Vangelis was just totally in love with like synthesizers, and he just wanted to experiment, and he was hungry to try new things. And this record is a brilliant example of everything that can go right with an album when you allow yourself to step outside of, I guess, maybe your comfort zone, because everything prior to this has been very like traditional sounding, as far as having a beginning and a middle and an end, and having traditional rhythms and percussive elements and drums and everything else tossed in. Vangelis' music up until this point, even though a lot of it has been ambient, it has always sounded like music. And this just sounds like a man on a Friday night twiddling knobs on a synthesizer and hitting record occasionally when he thinks he's come up with something brilliant, which he totally has. But I could see how this would alienate a huge chunk of his fan base, even though I'm not one of those people, because like I said, I've gotten into other types of music that have embraced this sort of attitude. So that's what I hear in this album, and I love that, because that means Vangelis was sort of paving the way for these people to do what they did, and he was doing it decades before. Vangelis is one of those people that was doing things with sound back in the 70s, like Brian Eno, that people in 2022 still aren't doing with sound. And this record is a towering behemoth of an example of that in motion. So I think I'm going to leave it there. It's a little over 5 minutes. So thank you so much for hanging out with me for 5 minutes while I discussed Vangelis' absolutely killer 1978 album Beaubourg. If you liked this review, or you agreed with me, or you didn't and you don't, still do something nice for somebody, because it's easy and it's fun. So thank you so much, and I will talk to you guys soon. Have a good night. I just wanted to say thank you for making it through the entire video. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to remind everyone one more time, even though I've probably already done this in the video that you just watched, to please click the like button as well as the subscribe button, because it helps this channel grow. And thank you for hitting like and subscribe, and we will see you guys really soon.